Okay, hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our EPQ 1.0 Sales and Product Training webinar. My name is Melody and I'm working as a marketing team for Canadian Solar EPQ. And for today's agenda, we're going to start with EPQ sales training presentation, followed by our EPQ product training, which we will dive deep a little bit more on the technical side, and then followed by the Canadian Energy presentation, which is our partner and our distributor across the Canada region. And then at the end, we'll have a little Q&A section. So if you have any questions along the way, please drop in the chat or use that time for a more interactive sessions. I'd like to introduce our speaker, Justin, who is our Associate Director of Sales at EPQ, who's focusing on the North America sales regions. And our Mario and the other speaker, Mario, who is our technical sales engineer, who will be answering and talk to you about EPQ in the more technical side. And also we have Landon, who is a territory sales manager at Canadian Energy, who's going to tell you all about the product service that they provided from Canadian Energy. And if you want to learn more about EPQ, follow this, scan this QR code and follow us on social media, and then I will also show that at the end of the webinar. So yeah, let's just get started. Justin, want to start?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Am I sharing my screen or?
Yes.
I am. Okay, good to know. My bad. Let me pull it up. A quick recap. My name is Justin. I'm with Canadian Solar EPQ. Been with the team for almost 3 years. Our Associate Director of Sales in North America. You'll be reaching out to me for all the things that we're going to discuss in this short little segment. So let's kick it off. Can you go to the next slide, please? So solar's been around since 2001. We have many years in the industry. We've started as a solar panel manufacturer with our headquarters in Canada and have since expanded from solar panels to inverters and battery storage throughout the world. We have over 20,000 employees. We're publicly traded, and we're doing residential inverters, residential batteries. We have utility scale batteries, commercial batteries. So this is a new, kind of, we're not just a solar panel manufacturer anymore. So now that we're doing it all, you can see that we have a very strong global presence. EPQ is now in approximately 10 plus countries. We're doing extremely well globally right now. Excited to be part of the EPQ growth that we've seen in the last few years. Next slide, please. All right, so EPQ is your standalone hybrid inverter battery storage solution. You'll be getting a deep dive later from Mario on our technical team, but I just wanted to let you know exactly what we're here today to discuss. It is the EPQ 1.0, which is a hybrid inverter with modular batteries and a smart gateway. Next slide, please. All right, so my role is to help your team sell, and that's what I've come up with on this kind of page here. I want to give you guys some examples of things that you'll be able to reach out to me, and I can work with your team to onboard our product into your sales process. So one of the things that we offer is creating a custom homeowner facing presentation. So, I'll give you an example, I think, on the next slide. But you'll basically have the ability to create a presentation if you're not already selling battery and or solar, or you want to change it up a little bit. We'll work with your team to create a custom experience that's homeowner facing at the kitchen table on how to sell and position EP Cube for the homeowner. We also come up with different marketing strategies. So like, we'll set up a time to discuss some, I guess I'll say, sales strategies, and you can see which ones that you want or like, and or the ones we can build off of. And so you can reach out to me to set up a time together so we can come up with different actual sales strategies to position EPQ. So the difference there is the first one is a little presentation to the homeowner. This next topic, I suppose, is a different strategy. So like example, you see this, it's kind of small, but you can see that there's a flyer and it says batteries, $18 a month. Well, they're not exactly $18 a month, but it's just a sales strategy, right? So you take a solar system, and if you take a solar system that someone wants to say a 10 kW, right? The idea is just starting with solar and taking advantage of some of the incentives that are in markets like Ontario and BC. You can get that $5,000 credit. And so when you play with the numbers a little bit, you'll see that when you add a battery, it actually only increases the cost from their solar system, and adding a battery by a small amount compared to what they're already paying on their utility bill. So again, it's just a marketing thing, but I will set up a time with you guys to go over different strategies that you want to implement. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is an example of the homeowner facing presentation I was mentioning. So this is just a snippet, guys. But again, the idea is you'll set up a time with me and our marketing team, and this tells the story of solar, and we make it custom and tailored to you. How we do that is at the bottom of the slides, next to our logo, we would put yours and talk about, just energy storage and batteries and solar as a whole, why a homeowner would want to get involved in solar and batteries and have backup protection. Talk about climate, and again, you're just creating that connection at the kitchen table. And then towards the end of the presentation, we include about your company. So we would tailor, installations and pictures that your team has done, reviews of your business, and again, create a total custom experience for your sales team to be comfortable at the kitchen table to present solar and EP Cube. Another thing that we can help you do is website support. What I mean by that is I had this website created for one of my installers down in Florida. So he lives in Jacksonville, and he had a website called Go Solar Jacks for Jacksonville, Florida. And the idea was this, he gave me everything that he wanted, all the ideas and whatnot, but I can help your team add if you guys want to add like a splash page or something, or create a new domain name, as long as you have the hosting and the registration, I can literally make a custom lead generation website for you. And that's just something that we provide at our team, on our team. Next slide, please. Another useful tool is comparison sheets. And so this is just an example, but this is EP Cube versus Tesla. And so, oftentimes when you're at the kitchen table talking to homeowners, of course, everyone knows what Tesla is. And so they usually have a lot of questions. But sometimes there's other products that come up. So our team will work with you to create a custom, side by side comparison of any product that's in the market. And so we'll put EP Cube against the Tesla or Enphase or whatever have you. Just reach out to me and we'll set up a meeting so we know what product you want, what information you want to see. And then this is just like a simple page, but there's more back end data on this. So we would make a 3 or 4 page presentation to literally go deep dive for a homeowner on the pros and cons of the both systems and why they should choose EP Cube. And again, we'll do that with any product. And this is the text sheet I was talking about. So you would again have this access to any of the other products and create a custom experience for the homeowner. All right, and I believe this is last year. So a couple of things that we want to do is, again, please reach out to me. You're going to go through the product overview today, and you're going to learn all about it. The next thing we need to do is, if your team doesn't already have a sales proposal tool, there are tools that I could show you. Example is Open Solar. Open Solar is a platform that allows you to build a solar system and a battery system and quote it to a homeowner, and it's all totally free. So I can work with your team to, if you don't already have a tool, some people use Aurora or some other of the big brands out there, or if you're using Open Solar, we can help you. And if you don't have one, you got to get one. It's like the next step of being able to sell solar at the homeowners. So solar batteries. So you got to get a proposal tool. But again, our team will help you through this. So you just set up a meeting with me to go over which one you have and how we can help add EBCube into your proposal tool. Then we, have a meeting about the sales strategies. You meet our marketing team so we can give you resources to add to your website, and maybe that's the time where we come up with, if you want to look at that homeowner presentation that we have, we can tailor it to you guys there. We do a sales training for your reps. So this is just like, today, this was an overview to the general masses of solutions that we have. But once we do a sales training that's dedicated to your team, there's all sorts of things that we can cover, from not just how to sell EPQ, but even some just general sales tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that I'm willing to kind of teach, as well as some energy saving tips on example, how to become an energy expert at the kitchen table. So we talk about all these things and do a training. We'll get your team certified. So we'll send you guys a link to get the technical team of your team certified so they can actually install. We'll work with your team to schedule the first installation. Meaning, so the first install of any new product, it's a little complicated. And so, we have a team here to hold your hand. So you can send us single line diagrams to review, make sure it all looks right. And then when your team's actually going on site, if you coordinate with us, then, we should have video support for you guys. So the FaceTime with us, etc. And then afterwards, you can get to meet our technical team on the back end, so we can go over our just processes in case there's questions, how to use the app. If there's a question of an RMA or something that may happen, we go over all of this for you guys. And so that concludes my portion of this. Now Mario's going to take over here and give you guys a really deep dive into what EPCube is. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you everyone. Thank you for the introductions. I'm the technical support engineer for EPCube. I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see it? Justin, can you see my screen or okay?
Yeah.
So right now we're just gonna do a quick overview about the product, best installation practices, and we'll go through the commissioning real quick. So EPCube, features, this is the whole system. You have the smart gateway to your left. It's 44 pounds. Then you have the hybrid inverter, which sits on top of the batteries. The batteries, it can come, the minimum amount of batteries is 3. The maximum is 6 batteries per stack. This is just a explosive view of the same components. Each battery is 3.3 kilowatt hours of storage, meaning that a three battery stack, that one you're looking at here to your right, that's a 9.9 kilowatt hour. It's pretty plug and play. As you can see, you just stack one battery on top of each other. You don't have to worry about cabling between batteries, anything like that. Very seamless integration. These are the different sizes for EPCube per stack. The 3 battery, 4 battery goes up to 13, 5, 16.6, and then the big guy over here is 20 kilowatt hours of storage with 6 batteries and the inverter on top again. The advantage that we have is that we have a hybrid inverter as opposed with Enphase, for example. What is a hybrid inverter? What's the advantage? The advantage is that we can have a bigger solar array with a smaller inverter sizing because we can feed your loads and also charge a battery at the same time. That's because we have a AC, DC to AC inverter and then DC to DC converter inside the same inverter. That's why it's called a hybrid inverter. Our warranty, it's unmatched for the industry, 10-year warranty or 6,000 cycle, and we provide an 80% capacity retention after that a lifespan. If it's 10 years or the 6,000 cycles, whichever comes first. We can do up to 3 units in parallel with EPQ 1.0 into one gateway. That gives you enough power for storage for 60 kilowatt hours of storage. And the inverter 7.6 kilowatts, that gives you around 21, 22 kilowatts of continuous power from the 3-stack system. EPQ has 3 operation modes: time of use, backup, and self-consumption. Time of use is basically energy arbitrage, right? You want to charge your batteries from the grid when the energy is the least and sell it when the energy is the most expensive. Pretty straightforward. Backup is basically the battery works as your generator. So it's always going to the software is always going to keep the battery charged. And the only way you're going to use the batteries is if you have a power outage. And the self-consumption is the most popular, in my opinion, is where basically you use the battery the most and the energy grid the least. So basically, the system is going to charge the battery only from solar, not from the grid, unless you have a minimum SOC set up for it, and it's always going to keep it up at that SOC and pull from the grid if needed. We have a weather watch option as well, where basically if there's a storm coming through your area and you have your system in self-consumption, this happens in Florida a lot. I live in Florida, actually, in Miami. So, normally people here have a self-consumption, and if a storm comes through, the system switches to backup mode automatically and starts charging your batteries. Just because if you think about it, when there's a storm, there's not enough solar activity to charge your batteries from the panels. So, we want to make sure that you guys are covered for whenever, that outage comes, if it does. We also have an app, which I'm going to go through it later, which basically you can see all of your data and concentrated there, how much you're producing per day, per week, per month. And there's a lot of stuff that you can get into it. We also have a YouTube video on how to use this app and talks more about the operation modes. This is a text sheet. Just wanted to make sure that you guys understand the capacity of each battery. Basically, our inverter is 7.6, yes, but with no sun, that's the backup capability of the unit, because normally, if you had an outage at night, you don't have the sun to back you up. So you want to size your projects or your houses or your systems, however you want to call it, based on this continuous output, right? So basically, you want to make sure, if it's a full whole home configuration, make sure you have enough batteries. If it's a partial home with little batteries, make sure you have a partial configuration, which is basically with a small sub panel with dedicated loads on the side. I'm going to show you some drawings later. Each inverter has, as you can see, 4 MPPTs. The IMP for each MPPT is 16, 20 amps short circuit. This is a 600 volt DC system. However, the MPPT range for the system is from 90 to 550 volts DC. Again, 550 volts is the top end. You want to account for temperature variabilities and how that affects your panel production, right? If temperature decreases, voltage increases. So you want to make sure you don't put too many panels or too little panels, because if you put too many panels, that's going to short the circuit. It's going to turn off your solar production. AC to DC ratio is 2. Again, because we have the hybrid inverter, we can charge the batteries and feed your loads at the same time. 240 volt, 120 system. The capacity is 7.6 kilowatt hours continuous of the inverter again, but with backup, the three battery system goes down to 5 kilowatt, the 4 to 6.5. Then 5 and 6 have the full 7.6 kilowatt capacity inverter continuous, and this is with no sun, basically. With full sun, all of the inverters will produce 7.6 kilowatt, because that's the size of the inverter. However, the inverter is limited by the batteries, by the battery amount, when you're in backup mode or with no solar activity. The kVA for the system is 22 kVA for 10 seconds. This is basically important when you're sizing for air, AC equipment and whatnot. However, I do recommend installing soft starters on the big loads, like AC equipment, pool pumps, and such. Just because you never know when you're going to lose power, and you're never going to have the battery at full capacity if you lose power. And let's say if you have a small system, like the battery module, I will always recommend installing a soft starter on the AC. They're like $200-$300, not that expensive, and it really changes the experience for the homeowner when something works as it should. Um, this is showing basically the limitation from the distance limitation from the EPQ smart gateway to the hybrid inverter is 33 feet. That's because that's the cable that's provided from factory. If you need longer distances, you would have to provide your own cable. Just have to make sure it's shielded, so there's no interference in the communication. Here is the different heights for the different stacks. As you can see, putting up the inverter, as you go higher, putting up the inverter, which is the last piece you install, it gets a bit more challenging. So that's why you want to have at least 2 persons working on a 6 stack. A minimum separation between stack is 8 inches. Whole home, partial whole home backup. Basically, it's pretty straightforward. Whole home backup, you're backing the whole house with the system. EPQ Smart Gateway is a 200 amp draw through system. So basically, you can put a 200 amp house panel, and back it up. So if one house only has a 200 amp panel, you can do a whole home backup. However, if you have a bigger house and maybe you have a different multiple panels, I would recommend doing a partial home backup or installing more than one gateway if you actually want a full home backup for that configuration. Site surveying is very important. Again, you want to make sure you know where you're going to install the battery. You don't want to install it into direct sunlight because, of course, the battery efficiency will decrease with heat. You want to have the correct distances between the hybrid inverter. Make sure the Wi-Fi is you have a strong Wi-Fi signal at the inverter, at the gateway, I'm sorry, because if not, warranty may be voided, or because we won't be able to see the system. To monitor the system effectively, we need Wi-Fi, and it has to be 2.4, not 5G. So basically, making the site survey is very important, not just by distances, but also, you gotta kind of mentalize how you're going to install it and where everything's going to go and if it's going to work. Wi-Fi is king in this. Of course, measure home loads. That should have been done, before you even sold the system. You want to sell something that makes sense for the homeowner. You don't want to sell a problem for the homeowner. So having a proper load analysis before you even sell it, I would say, it's or a good understanding of what the homeowner has in their house before you sell it. It's a good way to start. Measure the Russian amps. That's basically why I recommend installing soft starters, because if like load equipment that have a high inrush amps, such as HVAC equipment and pool pumps, you need to consider, because if you don't take that into consideration when you're on backup without the grid to help the system is going to short out and protect itself. Now we're going to go through different unboxing. You're going to see here what comes in the system. The smart gateway box basically comes with a smart gateway, the wall bracket, the CTs. The CTs are needed for partial home configuration, basically. Yeah, some instructions and screws. The hybrid inverter comes with the box of the hybrid inverter comes with a communication cable, a resistor, which already comes installed in the inverter. I got some bracket material and the side covers. This is the battery module box. Pretty straightforward. Comes with the battery, side panels, and a bracket material as well. And the base, of course. The base is the simpler one. Again, that one has side covers as well. Very important, the base, you need it for every installation. Believe it or not, we had installers try to install it without the base. The main reason for this is because that is what terminates the DC circuit of the batteries. So if you don't have the base, the batteries are basically in an open circuit and there's no voltage flowing through it or current flowing through it. And the wall mounting kit, pretty straightforward. It's a nail bracket, which you mount in the wall, and then you mount the base on top of that, and you start building the system. So the mounting is pretty straightforward, I would say. We provide a cutout, as you can see to the left. My personal opinion, I don't really use a cutout when I go on site. I like to go battery per battery and level everything accordingly. Take my time. Because I like to work effectively and not overwork. I think that, if you take your time, especially on the first ones, you're gonna learn a lot and you're gonna learn, what is effective, what works and what doesn't work. Again, we recommend having 2 to 3 man crews when installing these. And I've put one of these myself by myself, a 6 stack. It's not too challenging, but I would say the first one, have at least some other people, to be with you to help you, especially when putting the inverter, which is the heaviest component. And I believe it's around 60 to 77 pounds. And also you want to have people around during the first installs because you want people learning through the first installations. You just don't want to be the only one out there and having to explain it to someone else the following day. And where, the more people are out there doing the first installations, the better, in my opinion. And you want to start with the PV first, of course, and then bring that chase down the EPQ. Make sure the PVC chase run is sealed, is water sealed. We had installations where water goes into the unit through the pipe chase through the roof, and if you do that, the warranty will be voided. So very important. You want to make sure that you watertight your chase correctly. I recommend using duct seal. It's pretty easy to get. You can get it at any hardware store. It's very cheap, and it saves a lot of headaches. After you do the PV installation in the roof, you can focus on the batteries. That's why we recommend doing the PV also, because you want to leave the site with the system, making sure that the system is producing solar. So you want to make sure that there's sun out when you're doing the PBQ, and the PV is already installed. You can commission EPQ without PV, but in my opinion, that's a waste of time because you're gonna have to come back again and make sure the PVs are working properly as they should. Now, here's just some wiring terminations, basically showing this is a partial configuration. You can see how it has 2 panels. This is a drawing of a whole home configuration. You can see where this is the meter from the utility. It goes through a disconnect. Very important, EPQ 1.0 is not service rated, so you always need a disconnect before connecting to the gateway. The E-stop is right there. It's always close E-stop 12 to 20 volt 12 to 24 volt signal 2-wire E-stop, pretty common. You can get it at any electrical supplier. The ATS is already included in the gateway. This is a whole home. As you can see, there's only one sub panel that we're feeding, connecting the gateway to from the loads. Then these two 40 amp breakers go to the inverters. You need a 2-pole 40 amp breaker per inverter, and this is our um, extension ports, right? Each rated for 100 amps. We recommend connecting up to 80 amps. You just for the 120% rule. And yeah, you can do AC coupling, generator, EV charger, and those portals. You can even do some load shedding if you want. This is a partial configuration. As you can see, you have the meter main combo here, 400 amp, then it splits into two 200 amps. This is a main panel from the house that we're not backing up with the EPQ. And this is basically the sub panel from the house that we are backing up with EPQ connected to the loads. This is basically 3 hybrid system. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 40 amp breakers. Again, 1 per each inverter. And over here, you have the DC strings. This one is basically just showing you that the AC coupling and DC coupling configuration. I'll explain it again here. The meter disconnect. Again, you need that disconnect because EBQ is not service rated, very important. Then you have DC coupled 2 inverters into the gateway. And then basically here, down here, you have an AC system. In this case is N-phase microinverters going to 2 branch circuits, 20 amps, which then go to a main 60 amp disconnect. And ideally, you can use a 40 amp disconnect. Doesn't have to be 60, but in my experience, 60 is easier to get from distributors. So that's why you get the bigger breaker size. And here you have an EV charger, basically. All right, so now the gateway. This is the gateway and how it looks once everything's installed. Number 1, this is the communications. Very important. This is the communication cable, the 33 feet long one that comes with factory. Very important. Whenever you do this, take your time. Make sure that these line up. There's been a number of times installers, they rush through everything and the system doesn't back up properly, or there's a communication issue, and it's always because of this little guy over here. The second is hybrid inverter 1. This is the breaker for that. This is always the breaker for hybrid inverter 1. And this already comes installed in the gateway. Number 3, this is the grid terminals, as you can see. This is the ATS, even though it's not numbered out. Number 4, EPQ hybrid number 2. So here's where you would put an EPQ hybrid 2 or 3 on the bottom from that one. Backup loads. Here you have your backup loads termination or connection points. And here you have your AC, your extension ports, AC input for AC only. It's on the second port, generator only on the first port. Actually, you can put AC on either port. The one that is only for one is the generator one, and that's extension port number 1. So if you have a site where they have a small AC string, I would recommend always using extension port number 2, just because if in the future the homeowner wants to install a generator, you don't have to worry about moving wires from one extension port to the other one. You just can hook it up to the extension port 1. And number 7, basically the conduit entrance, as you can see there. Very important. Make sure you don't have the DC coming in at the same conduit as the communication wires. AC doesn't matter because the wire is shielded. If it's not shielded, you have to run its own chase for the wire. And number 8, the CTs. Basically, you can hook up the CTs into this board over here. This picture is basically showing that, yeah, we have this dim rail breaker for the other hybrid inverters. But however, you can put some other loads in there as well. Just instead of having to buy a sub panel for some loads, you can actually put them in that dim rail breaker. You just have to get the exact 40 amp dim rail breaker. 40 amp 2-pole dim rail breaker, which is a bit harder to source, but it's an option. Now we're going to talk about the inverter, hybrid inverter, basically, and the components inside them. So this is what you will see inside the hybrid inverter. This is the AP Smart or Tigo RSD transmitter. Basically, you need to put RSD devices, only RSD, don't use optimizers or anything like that. Just use rapid shutdown devices, either Tigo or AP Smart. Whenever you purchase, the inverter from the manufacturer, make sure you have the one with the right transmitter because it comes pre-wired from factory. If you get the wrong one, you're gonna have to source your own transmitter and wire it yourself. And hybrid communication cable. So this is where you would connect the hybrid communication cables coming from the gateway. Again, this is pretty standard and straightforward. It's labeled. Take your time. Make sure your wires match your label terminations. And this is the hybrid AC, the AC ports. This is where the AC, this is where you connect basically your 40 amp breaker to, and exports AC energy after being converted from the inverter. The 4 MPPTs, as I mentioned, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 MPPTs per inverter. So disconnect 1 is for MPPT 1 and 2. Disconnect 2 is for 3 and 4. In the back, you can see the grounding terminals as well. And the DC disconnects, as I mentioned, 1 and 2 MPPTs, 3 and 4 MPPTs. But then that's the 100 amp battery fuse, and that's DC battery connector. When you put the inverter on top of the batteries, basically you're gonna have to make sure before commissioning that this guy is plugged in. Again, if not, the DC circuit won't be terminated and you won't be able to do commissioning. Also very important, if you're not able to finish installation or commissioning, but you put the stack of the batteries, you install them, make sure this guy is disconnected or you remove the battery fuse. That way the batteries won't drain. Because I know things happen and you might not show up the next day to the job install, but maybe a couple of weeks. Again, if you don't remove this connector or remove the fuse, the batteries are gonna drain. And if they're gonna drain, you're gonna have to, they drain to a certain point, you're gonna have to manually charge them, which takes time and it's an extra issue that you can prevent. This is just images showing you, how everything looks before and after everything's terminated. You can see here the comms cables, AC wire L1, neutral L2, and here you have the DC wires coming from the roof. L1 always come up front, L2 goes in the back. This is for a partial configuration, basically showing you where to install the CTs. Very important. You wanna, if you have a main service breaker or panel here that splits into 2 panels, you always wanna put the CTs between the breaker and the meter. Very important because this is what's gonna basically monitor the entire system, understand how the system is working, understand the energy flow. If you put the CTs in the wrong place, for example, if you put them here or here, the readings on the app won't make sense and the homeowner won't be happy because what he's seeing in the app is not what's actually happening with the system. This is basically showing you, where to connect the CTs and in the gateway. You always want to keep the white wire plus, black wire negative. And again, you have 2 CTs, 1 per each leg. This is some install images showing, how compact and slick we can be. This is an install in Puerto Rico. Very, very, I like this a lot. This is just showing you that, with different configurations. Here you have the EV charger over here. Always use gutters. In my experience, all the installs that I go to, or maybe 80% of them have gutters. What are gutters? Basically, this guy over here. It's very, I like it because it makes the installation very clean. Any additional wire you have, you can just hide it in there instead of having to cut it and splice it. In my opinion, it's less work, looks better, and at the end of the day, as an installer, you look more professional, in my opinion. There's another installation with, two inverters again, AC coupled, right? Because they have an AC and phase system existing there. And this is a 3 hybrid stack. This is also in Puerto Rico. This is a pretty cool one because they basically put this, it looks like an attic or on a roof, space in the roof where they had a little opening. So yeah, future-proof your system. In my experience, you want to always install the inverter higher than lower because, it's easier to build. Um, in this case, actually, he used EMT, and in my experience, it was used flex duct or PVC is easier to reinstall than having to use EMT. And this is actually done by a DIYer. He has a full video on YouTube on how he made this installation. Pretty cool video. If you guys want to watch it, it's out there. DIYer, pretty clean install for a DIYer, in my opinion. And we are UL 9540 test and certified. So, we can, as you can see in this install, they can install close to the windows. Again, we have an integrated bus bar, and very important, the smart gateway hybrid separation 33 feet. Again, that's because that's what comes in the box. This is, just showing you more installation images. Now we're going to go really quick through the commissioning process for AP Cube. It's pretty straightforward. I've done this many, many different times. If you follow the steps, read everything carefully and take your time, it shouldn't be that hard. Also, of course, you gotta have a good Wi-Fi. If you don't have a good Wi-Fi, commissioning is going to take you longer. Commissioning should take anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. If it's good Wi-Fi, in my experience, 15 minutes. If it's, I don't know, if you have 2 bars of Wi-Fi, it can take half an hour. If you don't have a good Wi-Fi signal, you're going to have to either get a better router for the homeowner or a repeater. In my experience, I recommend you have always a mesh router in your car, and maybe, it saves you time. Because when you're at the end of the installation, you don't want the commissioning to be an issue just because you don't have Wi-Fi, a strong Wi-Fi signal at the gateway. First thing, you want to make sure everything's turned off, right? De-energized. Make sure that the fuse is in and the connector is connected snug as well. Basically, keep the PV breakers off and everything on. Basically, here in the gateway, just looking at, I'm sorry, here in the inverter, just looking at the inverter, keep these DC disconnects off and the battery fuse in and the connectors, the DC connector connected. Next, basically what you're gonna do is power the breaker for the inverter only. Make sure you have 240 volt present at the inverter, because if you don't have that, you won't be able to upload the software to the hybrid inverter. Again, like I mentioned, Wi-Fi is very important. You're going to connect, the system is going to ask you first to connect to Bluetooth, then to connect to Wi-Fi. Again, have a strong signal of Wi-Fi in front of or at the smart gateway. And the Wi-Fi has to be 2.4, not 5G. So it's pretty straightforward. And what I do when I go on site, I always connect on my settings on my iPhone. I go to my settings, I connect to the homeowner's Wi-Fi through my settings on my phone. And then I start the commissioning process, because that's going to make it easier to connect the system to Wi-Fi in my experience. And then, just go to add a device, new installation, select if it's EPCube or EPCube Lite. Go through the steps, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. It's going to ask you, if you have an e-stop, if not. Then it's going to ask you to scan the serial number for the smart gateway and provide a name for the site. Go back a step, very important. Before doing commissioning, make sure the homeowner has already their EPQ account set up for them. We have a YouTube video on how to set it up. Basically, it's a 5-minute video showing you how to download the app, create an account like any other app. When you download it, create an account. We'll send you a link, verify the link, and that's it. So once you have that email has an account created for EPCube, you can then link that email to this system during the commissioning steps. Again, this is pretty straightforward. You just put the address, time zone. Then you connect to Bluetooth. Then to Wi-Fi. Again, 2.4, not 5G, please. Then the device is going to start to update itself. Again, if you have the breaker, the AC breaker, the 40 amp AC breaker for the hybrid off, this is going to fail. Why? Because you need 240 volts present at the gateway. I'm sorry, at the inverter, not only the gateway. Then basically just go through the updates. As you can see here, just downloads it. Again, this is very fast if you have a good Wi-Fi. If not, it's going to take you time. Before that here, you basically add, how many hybrid inverters you got in that system. Here you get you input the grid standards basically, and the export function if you want it on or off. I always put it on percentages. First of all, you need to have permission from the utility. And then if the homeowner wants to export, I always put it at percentages and 100 range. Easy, pretty straightforward. Smart gateway, very important. Here's where you configure the smart gateway. If you have the system time, basically the time when you commission. E-stop, if you have one or not. Extension port 1 and 2, here's where you enable them. Very important. I would recommend if you have a AC a string or a generator or whatnot, always make the physical connection first before you activate these ports, because when you activate these ports, the gateway is going to provide 240 volts to the extension port terminals, and you don't want to work with live electricity, right? So you want to make sure that all your terminations are done before you activate the ports. The SIM card, you're going to query it, make sure it works and it's active. The SIM card we recommend Wi-Fi even though we have the SIM card. The SIM card is there as an emergency or as a backup. But to be honest, sometimes in sites we don't even have a good signal. So, Wi-Fi is always king to have in the system and required for EPQ. The last step, or almost the last step, is where basically you scan the QR codes of each component. You gotta scan the smart gateway, the hybrid inverter, each battery, and even the base, as you can see. To make sure that you start or your warranty is covered with the system. Then the last step for the warranty is just take pictures. Very important. Take pictures of the cabling. That's what we want to see the most, because when we're troubleshooting these off-site, for example, myself, I get a bunch of calls on helping people how to correct the system. The first thing I do is go to the backend and check these images. So if you don't have these images uploaded, you're gonna have to go on site and take them for me so I can help you. If you already did it, you don't have to worry about that, right? Again, here's the homeowner phone number and email. The email basically is the one that you have to put, the one they used when they created the account. Very important. And after that, you just upload the pictures and everything is done and complete. This is the reconfiguration page. This is in case you have to go back. For example, if you did a system without a generator and now you want to add it, you will go to SG configuration. If you're adding another hybrid to the system, you would go to hybrid configuration. If you want to add images or updated images for the warranty, maybe because the hybrid inverter got damaged and you swapped it out, you go to warranty registration, you take the pictures of the new wiring for the new inverter. If you need to change the grid configurations, car configuration. So this is basically where you can reconfigure the whole system. When powering on, very important, the first thing you want to do is have that AC breaker for the inverter on. Then you want to turn on the hybrid button on the side of the hybrid inverter. And then I would say wait, I don't know, 10 seconds, and then press the smart gateway button. Then you're gonna see that the lights on the side of the gateway are gonna start blinking, and you're gonna hear some clicking. If you've done everything right and all the wiring is done right, all the communications, all the there's no mix, you didn't cross spaces or anything like that. The light's gonna blink and then it's gonna stay solid. Once it stays solid and you see on the app that the system is working on normal, you can go to the next step. The next step is basically turn on the DC breakers. And that's basically going to allow the DC production, if you have a DC coupled system, and into the hybrid inverter. And again, the lights are going to start blinking, and then they're going to stay solid. The same process as when you first turn on the system. Once you're solid, you should be producing solar. This is basically the same thing. And then you're going to basically see the energy flow on the app. This is how the app is going to look like. Again, install the side panels because that's what provides the NEMA 4X enclosure for the system on the batteries and the inverter. And that's it, guys. We have to get certified, you got to go through the EPQB University. Any installer, any person touching the system needs to go through this process. It doesn't matter. If you have a new guy working in your crew, he has to go through EPQB. He cannot use other installer certification logins. That might void warranty. We have, again, a bunch of YouTube videos on installations done by third parties and such that are very helpful. I watched them myself when I first started this job. They helped me a lot before going on site. The more you know, the easier it's going to be when you're out there. Thank you, guys. It's been my presentation. Hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you had any questions.
All right, so I'm gonna just wrap this up. Big thanks to the EPQ team here. That was an excellent presentation. So this is being recorded. So if anyone didn't quite catch every piece of information, we do have this on record, so you'll be able to watch this back. Again, so just a big thanks to the EPQ team. A lot of technical information there and a lot of sales info. So I think we have a lot of tools to get this product into the market. My name is Landon. I'm with Canadian Energy. We are handling distribution on this product. So we're very excited to add this product to our distribution network. It's just a product that makes sense. So who we are, we've spent the last 35 years building one of the strongest distribution networks in Canada. We've been in business for 35 plus years. We have 75 route trucks. We have 140 incredibly hardworking employees, and we have 21 locations across the country. So just a quick overview of who we are. 1987, it's hard to believe that that's almost 40 years ago. Heard it was a great year to be alive. So it was also a great year to open a battery shop in Lethbridge, Alberta. From there, we expanded pretty rapidly. Within 3 years, we moved to 10 locations within Western Canada. I think the biggest takeaway of our story is just that we're rooted in partnerships. We spent the last few decades building really strong partnerships with national chains, commercial clients, and big box stores. So we're excited to leverage those partnerships to help scale the EP Cube. So we offer coast-to-coast distribution across this country. We have 300,000 square feet of warehouse space. We have 3 distribution centers, Calgary, Toronto, and Quebec, 21 warehouse locations, as mentioned, and we are the #2 battery distributor in Canada. Our coast-to-coast distribution is definitely a reason why we're so excited about this product. We have a really good opportunity to scale here. We have an opportunity to get your products when you need them with reliability. And so what we can offer, obviously distribution is one thing, but installers need customers. So we're really happy to work with installers to understand their business and pass on reliable leads. We are very excited in our ability to drive demand because each one of our 21 locations has a storefront with a lot of foot traffic, and our partnerships too, as mentioned before. So, partnering with us, you get a ton of access to homeowners, in our online tools. So we're in a unique position to support you, to help engage homeowners and get you those customers that you need. So just kind of to wrap things up here, our portion is pretty quick here. We will have a Q&A at the end. So I saw a couple questions that were asked. We'll pass those on to Mario and Justin for the most part. If you have any questions in regards to distribution, feel free to ask away. But yeah, again, a huge thanks for the excellent presentation. We're very excited about this product, and I think that we can really do good things in the Canadian market with it. So we'll move on to the question and answer portion here. So I know there was a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'm already answering some of them. So, the VPP programs, that's one's for Justin. I can take care of mine for now. The first question was, is there a limit on how fast the batteries can charge? Yep, the charge rate is 3.5 kilowatts per inverter, basically 50% the capacity of the inverter. The service rated question on the gateway, EPQ1 is not service rated. EPQ2 will be as an option. You have to make sure you select it. It doesn't come standard just because sometimes you don't need it. If you have multiple inverters, we recommend keeping the strings as balanced and equal on each inverter. This will make sure that each battery is charging. I would say as balanced as possible, and the system works in tandem. Basically, each inverter will have the same, or each battery stack, will have the same SOC. If you add a battery later, that's not an issue. You just gotta make sure that the existing battery stack is at the same charge rate as the batteries that come new in the box. Normally, the batteries come at 30% charge rate. So you want to make sure your stack, it's either charged to 30% or decharge it to 30% to add the second stack. That's because I believe there's the maximum difference between batteries plus or minus 2 volts. If the second inverter is added in the off-grid continuous output, yes, if you have a second inverter added with at least 5 or 6 batteries, yes, the continuous output off-grid would be 7.6. Yeah, of course, if the batteries drain, that output will decrease like any other battery and inverter in the space. Oh yeah, and then the webinar is basically recorded. Those are the questions I can answer. The VPP questions would be more for Justin.
There's, yeah, James, go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. If you guys can hear me, just a couple questions. James in Alberta. First question is the length of the run between the gateway and the inverter. You guys have spec'd as 33. I think it was 33 feet. Is that a hard stop, or what's the reasoning for that? Can you go like?
Yeah, like I mentioned, that's the cable that comes from factory. If you want to have a larger distance, you need to source your own cable, basically.
So as long as you source the reason. Yeah, so as long as you source the proper gauge cable for distance, including proper gauge for power, no problems going to 50 feet or something like that. Okay.
I mean, power is another thing than communication. You know, if you do your wires right, the longer you make the power run, you got to make sure you derate it right. It's basically standard a contractor or I'm sorry, or NEC, following NEC rules, right? That has nothing to do with the system.
Copy that. Yeah, copy that. Thanks. And then the other thing I tried to catch was, can you explain that soft start again, what that is or what that's for? I think you called it a soft starter.
The soft starter is basically a charge capacitor. It's basically a small component that you can get from. Normally, yeah, I see them on boats and whatnot, where you need to start something with a high surge. And basically what it does, it basically stores amperage in a capacitor. That way, when a heavy load starts, the soft starter basically aids the battery and the surge of the AC equipment or the whatever big load you have connected is aided by the soft starter and the battery. So you can get away with, you know, sizing a smaller battery, but again, you gotta make sure how long, what is the continuous draw from that big load, right? How long is it gonna drain your battery by? That's why I mentioned,
Right.
you know, do a proper load analysis. It's not just yes, it's the continuous and you know, Russian amps you wanna take into consideration. And that's basically the LRA. And if you go to nameplates of pumps, AC equipment, that's the LRA rating. And basically, if an AC equipment has an LRA of 63 amps, if you had a soft starter, it can lower it to 20 amps or something like that. It depends which one you get and whatnot. But it's something very common in the industry.
Okay, so would that help in transition? So if there's a power outage and you have one of those soft starters, would that sort of help the transition into the load better without having like more of a blip? Is that how that works? Okay.
That's basically the whole idea, and you have to do it per load, right? So, you know, you basically connect it between the AC and the house panel, basically, right?
Right. Yeah, copy that. That makes sense. Okay. And then the last question I had was the communications wire. You just mentioned something about running it in a separate conduit or making sure that if it's ran in that conduit or that it has to make sure the electric cable is shielded.
Yeah, if you use the one that comes from factory, it's shielded already, so you can run it with AC wires. You never want to run it with DC wires, even if it's shielded. So, you know, and if you're gonna get it, you know, from a third party because you need a longer run, and for some reason you cannot get it shielded, then you need to do it through its own chase because the AC signal is gonna cause interference with the communication wire, and then the reporting will not be accurate, or you know, the system won't work as it should.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate the answers. Just I'm piloting one at our office right now. We just went live about a week ago. So
Nice.
and it's working out. I've got a couple other questions I'll touch base later on, but the other thing is we were looking at them for like telco practice in some of our pop shacks, as instead of our existing backup solution for I think it's the EPQ Mini, which is obviously very similar, but I'm guessing the gateway and the inverter looks like it's all together, possibly. I'm not sure if that's right or not, but
the light basically, you're talking about the light, right?
The which one?
The EPQ light.
Yeah, the light. Sorry, yes, the light. Yeah.
Yeah, EPQ light is basically no backup, so it's basically for energy arbitrage. So there's no gateway, basically, right? So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'd still use the main one. Okay, really good. I appreciate it. I'll let others ask questions. Thanks for the time, guys.
Happy to help. Any other questions?
Anyone has any other questions? All right.
Awesome. I think we can leave things there.
It's just a little quick announcement. So as long as you follow our EPQ LinkedIn account, we send out giveaway to you. We will select one winner, whoever followed our EPQ LinkedIn account, and then participate in this webinar has the chance to get that. And then yeah, we're great to see you guys interact with the pages, following, lights, reassure, everything like that. And yeah, just take the time to scan that QR code now, and then you have the opportunity to get our branded sweats.
Yes, I had, excuse the language, the throat's a little sore, but for environmental conditions, like would I be able to have this installed in my generator room that, or generator building really it is, that has wild swings in temperature from it runs 30 degrees if the generator is running, and as low as the temperature can get in Newfoundland in the winter.
Yeah, so the battery's efficiency decreases with heat. So I don't recommend it to install it in a hot room nor in a cold room, because CPQ 1.0 does not have integrated heaters. The recommended installation ambient temperature to install it is from 14 Fahrenheit to 122. I'm sorry, 14 Fahrenheit, yeah, to 122 Fahrenheit, which is -10 Celsius to 50 Celsius. But again, uh, batteries are very I get affected a lot by temperature. So if you want your system to work the most optimal and best way, I would recommend to keep it, as close at 72 Fahrenheit as possible. Um, it'll work, but just the battery will get derated, and that's how it is with LFP chemistry. It's not a thing about a brand or a different manufacturer. It's the thing about how the chemistry inside the batteries work.
Yes, I live off the grid completely. So right now I have solar system, my own batteries, and 3 inverters that are totaling up 7,000 watts plus a 7,000 watt generator. And my goal is to get to the point where I don't have to run the generator at all. And I'm getting pretty close, but uh, I have a lot of friends and neighbors also that live off the grid that are looking for a system that's probably a little less complicated than mine. Would this be the type of thing that you would be able to set up off grid and only use the generator a minimum amount when the solar is not available?
Yeah, I mean, we always recommend, we can do off grid. However, we strongly recommend to have a generator tied into it. And the system is compatible with generator, meaning that you're going to connect the communication of the generator with the ATS, and the logic of how it works basically is the generator is going to be the last source of energy used, right? So once the battery is depleted, or once the battery goes below the threshold of your predetermined SOC, for example, if you say, hey, battery, I want my reserve SOC to be 30%, which is what we recommend, 20% is pushing it, 30%, I think it was ideal, depending on, again, this is depending on the situation, the load size you have in the house, the battery size, or whatever. But first, to keep it simple, once the battery reaches that depletion SOC, then the generator is going to kick in, and the generator is going to kick in to charge loads first, and then to charge the battery in an off-grid situation. And we recommend installing that the generator needs to be in any way. You can get away with a 7 kilowatt generator, but we recommend using an 8 to 24 kilowatt generator, because you normally want the generator to be bigger than the inverter size, to charge everything adequately. But again, if you don't have big of a loads running, and you know how to manage your loads, which it seems like you have some experience, I think you should be fine.
Yeah, I'm running 5 solar arrays of different panels, different panel types, and I can go 8 months of the year without running the generator at all. But during the winter months, when the days are short and the loads are longer at night, I do have to run the generator from time to time.
Yeah, in that case, it's not a thing about the inverter. You need, in that case, you will need to install, more solar as well. I recommend using the same, not the same brand. I guess yeah, the same brand because basically how strings work, right? If you have a series of string, the string is gonna work at the if you have different panels with different voltages, the string is gonna work as the lowest voltage of that string. So if you have a panel working at 40 volts, another one 33, another one at 37, the system, the string is going to work as a 30, the lower volt, I think it's at 32. So it'll work as a 32 volt system, if that makes sense. And it's going to add 32 volts per panel instead of, if you have the same panel with the same voltage and you can keep the voltage high and low the panels, it'll be more efficient. It'll work using different panel brands and whatnot, but the most effective way is having a uniform panel, a uniform string or system where the VOC in each panel is the same.
I got 5 different controllers. The controllers are the same, but I got 5 different controllers that feed voltage to a common bus, so the voltage after you raise is the same all the time from all the different controllers. But the panels feeding it are different, but the controllers look after all that.
But in that case, if you need more solar, because you're basically you need more solar because you just said that that's not enough and the generator kicks in. And what I would do, I would AC couple that existing system into the gateway, and then just add a new string of panel into the cube and make sure that string of panel is a uniform one. Use the same manufacturer, same panel model, and you should be fine. How many you need depends on your loads. You would have to do a load analysis and basically figure out how much you need to compensate for the for the for where you need, so the generator doesn't turn on. And of course, you need the batteries. Make sure that that string or that existing system is enough to charge the batteries during the day and feed your loads. Because if you have a battery system and you don't have a big enough array, that battery is never going to charge to 100 or 90%. It's always going to be lower, the SOC, because it doesn't have enough energy to feed it and to charge it during the day.
Yeah, getting back to something that the gentleman previous was discussing, this soft start. I also have a well pump that's 340 feet in the ground, and I'm concerned about it's starting. It's only 3/4 horsepower to 140 volts, but the inrush is pretty heavy. I haven't had any trouble starting it. It's been running nicely for some years, but I got a compressor, a 5 horsepower air compressor that I can't start it.
Yeah, you would need a soft starter for that. It all depends on the size system, but I would recommend installing a soft starter for any big
So
loads, especially if you're off grid.
so I can put the soft start system on the compressor and the well pump separate from everything else because everything else works just fine.
Yeah, you would need one for each. In my experience, that's how it goes. So one for the compressor and one for the pump. Um, if it's
Uh,
if they're in series, I guess if the compressor is in series, the pump. I don't know what you have out there, but if it's two separate systems, you need two soft starters.
okay, yeah. And that's you say these soft starters are readily available anywhere?
Normally, they sell them at like a marine. You go where they sell like electrical components for boats and stuff like that. That's where you get them, and they're like
Oh,
$200, $300, or even $500, depending the size that you're getting and which one you need. So yeah, if I were you, I would just take a picture of the nameplate of your pump or your compressor, understand the LRA, and make sure that what you're getting, it's gonna, it's big enough to compensate.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, I'll check into that. I'm in Texas right now, so I'm probably out on the Gulf Coast here. There should be places that service all kinds of marine vessels.
Yep, that should be pretty easy to get
Okay.
done. Nice.
Very
Okay,
good.
and thank you everyone for participating and joining in this session. And I hope you guys learned everything about EPQ and the solar knowledge. And if you have any more questions, please reach out to us. I'll hope to see you guys next webinar.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate your time and your attention today. Happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody.